My name is Professor Shabir Mahdi. I'm the Executive Director at the National Institute for Communicable Diseases in South Africa, as well as Professor of Vaccinology at the University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, South Africa. So what the CHAMPS program is all about, right, is really for us to fine-tune our understanding of the causes of death. That's really the main focus, right? But for us now to be able to decide where is the next investment that needs to be made in terms of future vaccine development, right? Both to prevent children from being hospitalized and to prevent children from dying, that next investment needs to be determined by hard science, right? And the hard science needs to be very, very detailed in terms of its level of evidence. So for us to make that next leap in terms of deciding what are the interventions that need to be prioritized, we need to know why is it that in 2016, we still got over 5 million children dying. What are the causes? Which are the bacteria? Which are the viruses? And it might well be that it's not bacteria or viruses. It might be something else which we simply haven't actually looked at. What happened is that we were requested to basically determine whether we can actually take on undertaking minimal invasive tissue sampling, another way of saying sampling of dead children, as part of our surveillance program. And we've been doing that now for just over 6 months. The National Institute for Communicable Diseases and the South African Department of Health have got a very, very close relationship. And that relationship has been used to mitigate against the risk of viruses, bacteria that are of potential public health.
So when I heard about CHAMPS to say we're going to look at causes of death in children, and I said, yes, we know the causes of death. Initially, I was a bit scared because now people are going to come into your department and say, what is that? What is happening? This baby died. What was the cause of death? So one of the things that when bad things are happening, you don't want the whole world to know. But on the other hand, you say, but if we know the causes, why could we not prevent it? Are there other things that we might be missing? No health worker, a nurse or a doctor, no one can sit and be comfortable when a child has died. So it hurts and it's painful. You feel like that you've failed in terms of doing your job. So the initial response is not to share that information with anyone, because it's saying they are monitoring you, they are checking your performance. You shy away. But when you look deep in terms of what are the aims, what are the objectives of CHAMPS, then you say, you know what, we have to share this information. We have to work as a team because we're going to get to know deeper about why children are dying.
From my second born, I took it was a gap to get pregnant again. So I was really excited, really excited. Everybody's happy at home, I'm breastfeeding, my kids are excited. They can't wait to come back from school and hold the baby. Everything was lekker. It was good. And then she just got a runny tummy just one day and didn't take her meal of porridge. We took it lightly. Apparently it was something serious. We took it lightly. Then she landed in hospital. But then not knowing how, why, what happened, what went wrong, what did I do wrong? Hectic, trauma. It's unexplainable, it's painful. There's no pain like that one, losing a baby. Whereby you got to hold her in my hands, know her, enjoy those few minutes, and then all of a sudden, they're gone. It's quiet, silence. No more crying, no more, nothing. It's hectic, it's sad.
50% of children that die in Soweto do not die at this hospital. Right? They die in the community, they die in the houses, right? And we've got very little understanding as to why those children are dying at the home. When we speak to the parents, they will tell you the child had a cough, right? Something which is very, very common. But that's not an explanation as to why the child died in the community. It's no longer adequate for us just to know the child died from neonatal sepsis. It's to know which were the bacteria, which were the viruses that caused a child. Or in fact, did a child die from neonatal sepsis? Is it perhaps just a physician perception that the child died from neonatal sepsis, whereas the real cause of the death is something which a physician may not have diagnosed? When we started doing this minimal invasive tissue sampling, known as CHAMPS now, I was slightly skeptical as to whether this program was going to work. Right? Because our traditional way of thinking has been that In the Black African culture, right, they prefer not to actually sort of, once a person has died, they prefer not to do any sort of intervention, certainly not cut open a body.
Ngokwenkolelo yakithi thina kobantu akuvumelekile ukuthi umuntu adatshulwe mangabe sehambile emhlabeni. Njengento engayibona kumfowethu owayehambe ngokudutshulwa wahlala amaviki amathathu esemakhazeni. Wathi manxa sebemlethile sesiyombeka endlini yakhe yokugcina. Wayedatuliwe ethungiswe kwesaka la eswini, umthungo wakho usuka la uzofika la. Leyo nto leyo angikhululekanga ngayo kuze kube namhlanje ngakhululeki. Iqiniso nje angihambe ngiphelele. Ngani ngoba ngale kwethuna elinye izwe leliyana. Manxa sengizohamba ngapha kube khona okwami okusalayo ungazi ukuthi kwenziwani ngakho. Akunika umqondo lokho. Akunika umqondo, kuyaphazamisa nomndeni awukhululeki.
So already there are certain rights for the deceased, and these rights are, like you say, inalienable, and they are guaranteed, you know, and advised, I could say prescribed, advised by God. So once he or she passes on, then all these rights now. So you have to, this person has to be washed, be given a traditional washing. Women will wash women, men will wash men, but it must be family members. One must not speak. The one washes is a very big responsibility. They must not speak about the person. Their feet should face towards Mecca in the washing process, okay? And then you give them the washing. And so these four things, it's washing, shrouding, praying, and then burying this person as soon as one can. All Muslims will say within 24 hours. In fact, some would say within 12 hours. But again, the sacredness and respect for the human body must be maintained. People are worried, you know, if you want, this autopsy scars the body because, you know, you cut open somebody.
So we want to show how receptive people were going to be in terms of us requesting to do some sampling, not as obvious as doing a full autopsy, but doing some sampling of the corpse. So we were fortunate, and I have to say we were really fortunate, in that one of the employees at this particular research unit that we decided to ask to actually work on this program turned out to be a pastor.
My name is Tutuz Kubu. I'm a study nurse, and again, my involvement, I also work as a grief counselor to the bereaved families.
Right? And she had a good understanding of the community. She had an excellent understanding of the grieving processes. She's obviously been doing grief counseling as part of her job as a pastor. The community are able to relate to her. She knows the community knows her, where she comes from, and vice versa.
You know, there's nothing that, you know, fulfills people, you know, when they feel that somebody cares for me, you know, and then somebody understands what I'm going through. You know, they need that comfort, you know, they need that embrace. So now when you engage with the community under those circumstances, you know, the community will begin, you know, to rate you as one of us, you know, because during that time, they feel that they're alone, you know, nobody cares for them. Even God, you know, has forgotten them, because sometimes others, they view death as a punishment from God. But when you begin to come, you know, and begin to embrace them, and then to show them, you know, that there is still life, you know, and then even in this situation, God still cares for you, God still loves you. And then in this present moment, you are not alone. You know, when you engage in that manner with the community, you know, they feel that indeed this person cares for us. Grief counseling is very, very important, you know, because that's the first stepping stone towards the success of MITS.
Now, what we need to do in this program is we need to basically approach these parents within a very sensitive 24-hour window period. And the reason for that is that if we delay the sampling, the type of information that we get might be misleading.
I introduce MITS to them, and the importance of it, so that at the end of the day they might find closure and be able to live again. Because with every death, life cannot stop.
Mom Tutu came with her colleagues, and they found our family, and they prayed with us, and they counseled, and then before talking about everything, the investigation, and it was so comfortable, so healing, so it was a blessing. Then she explained about taking the samples from my baby. So we black people, darkies, we take it as if my baby's gonna be opened up and done this and this and this, but their procedure was so nice and clean and simple. I went even to wash my baby's body. I didn't even notice anything that they took samples from my baby or something. Everything was nice and neat. It's critical and it is important to know that the exact cause of the death, of your baby's death, it is. And in other ways, their investigation, I think it can help other kids, other babies whereby they're in hospital. And then the doctors also know. I think it helps out a lot.
MITS is minimally invasive tissue sampling, and in the procedure you take pieces of tissue using needles rather than cutting up or opening the body, and use those tissues, send them for histology to determine the cause of death, as well as blood and CSF samples. So the MITS process actually starts off with identifying a death in the hospital. And then we get the patient's details, their phone numbers of the next of kin, so that we can call the parent or the legal guardian to consent to having a MITS undertaken. We get consent, we then go to the autopsy room and we get the body or the corpse from the mortuary. We wash the body under running water and then decontaminate with 96% alcohol. Then the first sample we take is the cerebrospinal fluid, followed by the blood, and then liver, and then right lung, left lung, and brain. We also do nasopharyngeal swabs and also a rectal swab to collect some stool specimen. Yes, that's the MITS. And there's a lot of labeling that goes on and a lot of instruments when you're doing the procedure. I would say it's a 30 to 45 minute procedure, but that also depends on whether you've pre-labeled some of the specimens or not. So if you're starting the labeling from scratch, it actually takes longer. So once we have sent the tissues to the different places, for example, microbiology results, we get them practically the next day. Histopathology takes a bit longer, about 2 weeks, and molecular testing is done here in our lab. So when we get back the results, they are downloaded from the NHLS database, and then I transcribe them onto a results form, which is entered by a data capture. And that database is then merged to our laboratory data to get the molecular results for us to have our final MITS database. We also fill in some clinical forms which will tell us of the patient's clinical history at admission, so that we'll be able to correlate the patient history and the laboratory results.
And then when we have received results, we call them at home. We tell them that the results are ready, and then we make an appointment with them, the suitable time for them, and then they come here, and then the doctor, she will break the news that this was the cause of death.
So Mom Tutu calls me from my parents' place. No, everybody knew we were waiting for the results. Then I got there, and I was offered a nice welcome, and tea and coffee, and then the doctor came, and everybody we sat down and they explained it so nicely, everything. I got to even to realize there's these kind of different viruses, Klebsiella. That was a new knowledge, knew something I didn't know about. At least I knew what happened, what went wrong. And then I was offered counseling and I went for the counseling sessions where they help out. And I've stopped going to counseling, but I was very comfortable with the counseling.
You know, if it has something to do, you know, with whatever viruses or bacteria, whether the mother will need treatment, we always refer them, you know, to other, you know, doctors to go and see doctors. So if it has something to do with something that is beyond, you know, the viruses, the diseases, and then you also, you know, give them the causes.
Right? So that was our target, that we were going to do another 50 months in 6 months. And we thought that would be showing success. And all of a sudden, those 50 cases, we completed enrollment in 6 weeks rather than 6 months. Right? So now we had a problem, a good problem and a bad problem. The good problem is we showed success. Right? The bad problem is we didn't have the funding to continue. But fortunately, the Gates Foundation said that is not a problem. Right? What we're really wanting to do is for this to actually inform the future of the CHAMPS program, as well as to help you in terms of getting a better understanding as to what is causing the children to die. And what we estimated that now we would probably enroll between 10 and 12 children a week, not a month. Right? So in a period of 6 months, we enrolled 200 children, and now we've basically got a further grant to basically continue the work until June, and we expect to continue keeping up with that rate of enrollment.
What I did not expect was the acceptance of this approach by the community. And I thought people are going to say, no, you can't take blood, the child has died. You can't take fluid, my child has died, don't touch my child. But people were accepting after being informed about what all that was being done, what was needed, and what it meant. And people agreed for this to be done.
Kodwa lento entsha eningiqhamukela ngayo ngiyibona ingenankinga ngesingami angazi kwabanye ngoba abantu abayinganxanye bengemanzi. Lokho ngingakwemukela manxa eqinisweni lilonke sengihambile ngoba asikho isitho somzimba wami esosala. Kuthathwe lezo cukwana kudonswa lapha nalapha yana akuhluphi lokho nguthola kungahluphi lokho okunjengalokhu obekade kwenziwa kuqala abantu badatshulwe. Lokho impela bekusikhalisa kakhulu besingakuthandi.
We have what some people would put as a seeming confrontation between science, let's call it medical knowledge, you know, knowledge, and what religion says. There is no there is no such contradiction. So if it means that we're going to learn, yes, we are commanded by God to save life. And if we can learn about it so another human being can live, then it is not only important, but it becomes obligatory, in fact, to do that procedure, provided we respect the human body. We don't do it for profits so that some pharmaceuticals can make millions and billions of rands out of it. No, but in order to protect human life. See, there are 5 things in Islamic law that are the basis of existence. Without these 5 things, you know, existence cannot be. One of it is life. So if this procedure, now this person have passed on, so we are going to learn from doing this procedure, this person to save other lives, then it's not only important, but it's obligatory. In other words, God will take us to task if we didn't do that procedure. I think it is permissible, you know, again, if it is to learn the cause of death. Yes, I can almost imagine, but I want to be careful what I ascribe even to Muslims, that many Muslims say, okay, this seems okay. If you do to this body to benefit another body that also belongs to God, so then you are in service of humanity, which is a form of worship.
It's critical and it is important to know that the exact cause of the death, of your baby's death, it is. And knowing, in a sense, also helped me to relieve my guilt. Through the results and the closure, I'm willing to try to have another baby again.
None of that would be possible, right? None of that would be possible without the buy-in of the community. And I think that's what's also critical for the CHAMPS program. If the community are not prepared to basically work with us in terms of finding solutions to the problems that affect them, we simply wouldn't be able to move ahead. And certainly for the CHAMPS program, during this pilot phase, our biggest strength has been the community and the buy-in that we get from the community. So there's this level of trust that has developed over the past 18 to 19 years between the community and the researchers. So I think we can't think of CHAMPS in our traditional way of thinking of projects and of research. So in research, what happens, you start off with an objective, and you got your methods, and you see it through, and then you get your results, you analyze it, and you get your data. CHAMPS can't be about that, right? Because for CHAMPS to be meaningful, it needs to be able to adapt. It needs to be adapt to a changing environment. It needs to adapt to the challenges that they experience. So there isn't a blueprint as to a protocol that can be implemented in all the different places in the world, in these low-income countries, that's going to be equally successful. So there needs to be a change in mindset in terms of how we go about rolling out this program. The CHAMPS program needs to be a program that is where there's actually buy-in from any organization that has got any sort of interest in terms of child health. Right? They need to come together to make sure that this program succeeds. They need to make this program form part of their DNA when it comes on deciding on funding. Is anyone that's got any sort of an interest in terms of human development? So this is about human development. It's about identifying the reasons why children die, preventing that, and allowing them to basically fulfill their full potential. So this is about human development.